The Great War did not begin with a battle, but with a room full of enemies and a single calm human standing alone. The war chamber of Citadel Vrax was designed to crush hope. Its walls were made of black alien metal that curved inward like claws, and the air felt heavy, as if the room itself was watching. Giant holograms floated in the center, showing star systems marked with red symbols, each one a world already taken by the Karn Dominion. Every mark meant cities burned, species broken, and skies turned dark forever. Around the chamber stood Karn commanders, tall and armored, their sharp eyes filled with pride and hunger. They had conquered hundreds of worlds, and now only one name remained on the map that truly mattered: Earth. Captain Mara Cade stood among them, small compared to the towering aliens, yet unshaken. She wore no power armor, no shining weapons, only a simple dark uniform worn from long service. Her face showed no fear, though she knew that outside the station, human ships were already fighting and dying to slow the Karn advance. At the head of the chamber floated High Commander Zyreth, the ruler of this invasion, his massive form held up by gravity fields. His eyes locked onto Mara with open mockery, and a cruel smile spread across his face. He spoke slowly, enjoying every word, calling her the best human Earth could offer, his tone dripping with doubt. The other commanders laughed, sharp clicking sounds echoing through the room, because to them humans were weak, fragile, and already defeated. Zyreth then summoned a new hologram, showing a distant moon spinning through space, broken and surrounded by debris, thousands of kilometers away from the Citadel, hidden by gravity storms and solar noise. He explained that even Karn weapons would struggle to strike it cleanly, and then he leaned forward and smirked, challenging her to show human skill. The words were not a request but an insult, meant to humiliate, meant to prove that humans were nothing special. The room waited, expecting excuses or silence. Mara did neither. Without anger or pride, she stepped forward and placed a long case on the table. The case opened quietly, revealing a rifle that looked simple and almost old compared to alien weapons. There were no glowing parts, no humming energy fields, only solid metal shaped with care. She explained that it was built by humans alone, without alien help or artificial aim systems, and that it relied only on human hands, human judgment, and human patience. The Karn commanders laughed again, louder this time, unable to believe that such a small weapon could matter. Zyreth allowed the attempt because he wanted to enjoy the failure. Mara moved to the wide viewport, where stars burned in the distance and explosions flashed as ships fought beyond the station. She took her position slowly, breathing once, letting the noise of war fade from her mind. Her hands adjusted the rifle not by sight, but by memory, shaped by years of training on Earth, years of learning to wait, to listen, and to strike only when the moment was right. She did not think of glory or survival. She thought of cities, oceans, children looking up at the sky, and she whispered a quiet promise to home. When she pulled the trigger, there was no thunder, no dramatic blast, only a sharp sound like space itself cracking. For a few heartbeats nothing happened, and the Karn commanders prepared to laugh again. Then the distant moon changed. It did not explode outward as they expected. Instead, it collapsed inward, its core folding in on itself with perfect precision, releasing a focused shock wave that tore through hidden sensor arrays and smashed into 3 Karn battleships waiting in stealth nearby. Those ships were ripped apart before they could react, their armor shredded by debris turned into weapons. Alarms screamed across the Citadel, lights flickered, and the star map shifted as Karn losses appeared where none were expected. The laughter died instantly. Zyreth's smirk vanished, replaced by shock and anger, because in that single moment he understood something he had never faced before. This was not luck, and it was not weakness hiding behind tricks. It was skill, cold and exact, guided by a human who had waited for the perfect second. Mara lowered the rifle and spoke softly, telling him that the shot was only a warning, not a threat, not a boast, just a fact. Outside the station, human ships surged forward as if the galaxy itself had heard her answer, and the war that would decide the future of many worlds truly began. The battle that followed Mara's warning shot was unlike anything humanity had faced before. The Karn Dominion unleashed its full power, pouring countless ships into the system like a black, unstoppable flood. Thousands of alien vessels filled. Space, from massive carriers to monstrous living war beasts fused with metal, their weapons capable of erasing entire cities with a single blast. Every beam of energy fired by the Karn was precise, fast, and deadly, cutting through human shields with terrifying ease. Humanity's fleet was smaller, older, and many ships were already damaged from previous skirmishes. Yet, despite the odds, humans refused to retreat. On the bridge of the UNS Defiant, Admiral Jonah Reyes commanded with quiet authority, his voice calm over the roaring alarms. "All wings launch," he ordered. "Use debris as cover. Hit fast. Don't give them time." And the human fighters responded, small and fragile-looking against the Karn behemoths, but fast, clever, and deadly. Pilots flew through fire rather than around it, weaving between laser beams and explosions, using drifting asteroids and broken hulls as shields. Lieutenant Arya Chun, a young pilot barely 20, guided her fighter through a debris field, dodging massive energy blasts. Her ship shook violently as the shields failed, yet she stayed calm, rerouting power manually and calculating the smallest window to strike. She drifted dead in space, letting a massive Karn destroyer pass over her, and fired a missile precisely into an open vent, causing it to explode in a fiery bloom that lit up the dark battlefield. Across human channels, cheers and encouragement filled the void, even as losses mounted. For every Karn ship destroyed, 2 more advanced vessels replaced it, forcing humans to innovate constantly. On the ground, humanity's struggle mirrored the chaos of space. At Outpost Helios, soldiers held tight in narrow corridors, where Karn shock troops smashed through walls with inhuman strength. Human soldiers fought back with clever traps, coordinated attacks, and unyielding courage. Sergeant Abraham Khan lost his left arm to a plasma blade but continued fighting with his right, holding the line just long enough for civilians to flee into safe bunkers. Every soldier, pilot, and civilian felt the crushing weight of the alien advance, yet none gave up because surrender meant annihilation. Captain Mara Cade was no longer just a marksman. She became a leader of small teams striking deep into enemy lines. Mara led her strike team aboard a captured Karn dreadnought, moving through zero-gravity corridors where air hissed and strange alien sounds echoed like whispers of death. The team navigated treacherous corridors, cutting power and planting charges to cripple the ship. Just as they reached the core chamber, Karn elite soldiers appeared, faster and stronger than anything Mara had faced before. Blades flashed, shots rang out, and colored blood floated in the artificial gravity as humans and aliens collided in desperate combat. Mara herself took a hit to her chest but kept moving forward, urging her team with quiet determination, knowing that failing here would cost countless lives elsewhere. With coordinated effort and perfect timing, they overloaded the ship's core, sending it into a massive explosion that tore it apart from the inside, lighting up the space around them like a second sun. Yet even as victories were scored, the Karn fleet pressed on, relentless and numerous. At the edge of the system, a shape appeared that none had seen before, the World Reaper. A command ship larger than anything previously encountered, bristling with weapons and armor that could bend space itself. Its presence was a signal of total conquest, a living embodiment of the Karn's intention to finish the war. High Commander Zirith's voice echoed across all channels, a taunting reminder of the Karn dominance. He called humanity insects, foolish and doomed, urging them to surrender if they wanted their species to survive. Yet humanity did not answer. Silence replaced fear with resolve. Admiral Reyes, looking at the monstrous ship through cracked viewport glass, gave the order that would define this battle. All ships, final stand. Every fighter, every cruiser. Every soldier understood that this would be their greatest challenge. Mara, watching the World Reaper from a distance, felt the weight of responsibility and the same calm determination that had guided her first shot. She knew the outcome would depend not on numbers or technology, but on human courage, ingenuity, and precise action. Around the system, human ships prepared for desperate maneuvers. Pilots coordinated attacks at impossible angles, using debris, broken wrecks, and clever tricks to bypass Karn defenses. On the surface, soldiers reinforced bunkers and set traps to delay alien advances, buying time for civilians. Every human acted with the same principle. Survival required sacrifice, and skill required precision. The humans faced impossible odds, yet their defiance created confusion in the Karn fleet, who were unprepared for tactics born of instinct, creativity, and courage. Mara's team, battered and bruised, positioned themselves for the final engagement. Ships formed protective walls around key fighters, while others prepared daring runs into the enemy lines to strike at vulnerable points. Pilots like Arya-chan risked everything, charging through beams of destruction to reach the weak spots of Karn vessels. On the ground, Sergeant Khan continued to hold the line, encouraging soldiers and civilians alike to fight with ingenuity rather than brute strength. Every corner turned, every trap sprung, every shot taken reflected humanity's refusal to yield. Despite their exhaustion, humans discovered strength in their unity, in thinking beyond pure power, in using speed, precision, and cleverness to level the field against the overwhelming Karn advantage. Even as the Karn fleet grew ever closer to ultimate victory, humanity's actions caused cracks in their plans, slowing their advance, buying time, and giving hope to every human still fighting. The stakes were clear. If the World Reaper reached the system's heart, all would be lost. But if humans could exploit even a fraction of the enemy's weaknesses, they might survive. In this rising tide of fire and chaos, Mara's leadership and skill became a beacon for the human fleet, guiding them through impossible situations, coordinating attacks that seemed suicidal but worked because of human intuition and courage. Her presence inspired both pilots and soldiers to take risks they might never have imagined, to act with bravery beyond simple survival instinct. As the final stand approached, Mara prepared for what would be the decisive moment, knowing that every action from this point forward could turn the tide of the battle and ultimately the fate of humanity itself. The human fleet, battered and few, moved with careful precision, synchronized through countless drills and trust in one another. The ground forces, though exhausted and wounded, reinforced their positions, prepared to sacrifice themselves if it meant buying even a few moments for space forces to act. Every human in the system understood that the coming engagement would be more than a fight. It would be a demonstration of human spirit, ingenuity, and determination against an enemy that relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers. And in the quiet moments before the storm of the World Reaper's arrival, Mara focused her mind, her hands steady, her heart filled with purpose. She knew that victory would not come easily, that losses would be severe, and that many might not survive the fight ahead, but she also knew that humanity had one advantage the Karn could never take away: the ability to act with creativity, courage, and precision when it mattered most. In the vast darkness of space, with alien ships pressing from all sides, humanity prepared for its greatest challenge, ready to prove that skill, courage, and determination could stand against even the most terrifying force the galaxy had ever seen. Every pilot, every soldier, every human poised for the coming fight carried the weight of their home, their species, and the hope that even against impossible odds, humans could defy expectations and strike with power beyond measure. The rising action of the war had reached its peak. Every engagement, every maneuver, and every shot fired bringing the story closer to the climactic showdown where skill, courage, and sacrifice would collide in a single, decisive moment that could change the fate of the galaxy forever. The final battle began with a silence that carried the weight of every life in the system, a quiet before a storm the galaxy had never seen. The World Reaper, massive beyond imagination, hung at the edge of the battlefield, its hull glinting coldly against distant stars, its weapon systems humming with lethal energy. Its presence alone seemed to warp space, bending light and gravity around it, and every human ship in the system felt the overwhelming pressure of its power. Even with Mara Cade and her strike team leading the efforts, the odds were staggering. The human fleet, battered and exhausted from the previous engagements, formed a desperate line of defense, a fragile wall of hope against the crushing Karn advance. Pilots flew with precision, weaving through deadly beams of energy, guiding their small ships through debris fields and shattered wrecks to attack the enemy at weak points no one else could see. Lieutenant Arya Chun, though young and fatigued, continued to fly daring maneuvers, ramming Karn cannons, striking from impossible angles, and taking down ships far larger than her own. Each victory was a brief spark of hope in the endless void, but losses mounted quickly, every fallen human reminding the survivors that the price of courage was high. On planets like Helios, soldiers fought with the same relentless determination, holding corridors against Karn shock troops who seemed unstoppable. Sergeant Ibrahim Khan, though wounded and exhausted, inspired those around him to continue the fight using clever tactics, traps, and timing to delay the alien advance and give space forces the precious seconds they needed. Every soldier, every pilot, every civilian caught in the battle understood that survival demanded total commitment. Mara Cade prepared for the decisive strike, knowing it was the only chance to end the war. Her position was perilous. She stood on the broken hull of a drifting cruiser, mag boots locking her to the metal as she mounted the Mark 7 longshot rifle, modified beyond its usual limits. Cables ran from the ship's reactor to the weapon, channeling raw energy that could destabilize the cruiser, yet this risk was necessary. The shot she planned would either save humanity or end her life in a brilliant flash. Around her, the remaining human ships moved with deadly precision, forming protective shields and distracting the Karn fleet to give Mara the perfect window. Pilots like Arya executed impossible maneuvers, diving through beams that would have vaporized any other vessel, striking at weak points Mara had identified with her team's intelligence. Ground forces continued their desperate resistance, delaying enemy reinforcements and ensuring that no support could reach the World Reaper to alter the final engagement. Mara's focus was absolute. She tuned out the chaos around her, the screaming of engines, the flashes of distant explosions, the deaths of comrades. All she saw was the target, the massive open core of the World Reaper, vulnerable for only a fleeting moment as its shield shifted and recalibrated to the human attacks. Zareth's voice echoed over the comms, full of rage and disbelief, calling humans insects and insisting that defeat was inevitable. Mara did not flinch. She whispered a single word, almost a prayer, and fired. The shot moved with perfect speed and unerring accuracy, a straight line of human determination cutting across the void. It struck the core at the exact instant its defenses were weakest. The result was instantaneous and catastrophic. The World Reaper shuddered violently as its own power was turned inward, armor buckling, weapons exploding, and the ship cracking from within. A shockwave rolled outward, tearing through the surrounding Karn fleet, destroying vessels, shattering formations, and scattering the remnants in all directions. Silence followed, thick and heavy, as the smoke of battle cleared and the human fleet drifted among wreckage and debris, each ship a testament to the courage and sacrifice that had brought them this far. Mara's cruiser, having absorbed much of the weapon's energy, began to break apart beneath her. Yet she felt no fear, only a sense of completion, knowing that the action she had taken had not only destroyed the World Reaper, but had turned the tide of the war entirely. In the weeks that followed, the Karn Dominion, shattered and demoralized, surrendered. They spoke of humans with a mixture of awe and fear, describing a species that refused to bow, that acted with precision, courage, and intelligence beyond anything they had anticipated. Across Earth and the stars, stories of bravery spread. Statues and monuments were built, not just for Mara Cade, but for every human who had stood against impossible odds. Humanity had survived, not through overwhelming firepower, but through skill, ingenuity, and a refusal to surrender in the face of annihilation. The final battle left scars, both physical and emotional, across every world involved, but it also left a lesson etched into the galaxy's memory. Humans were not the largest, the strongest, or the most technologically advanced, but when their home, their species, and their people were at stake, their skill and determination could overcome even the greatest of enemies. Every survivor, pilot, soldier, and civilian carried that memory forward, knowing that what had been achieved in the void of space was more than a military victory. It was proof that humanity's spirit, courage, and ingenuity could shine brighter than any star. Mara Cade, though gone in the aftermath, remained a symbol, a quiet but powerful reminder that a single human, using mind, hands, and courage, could change the course of the galaxy. And the final words of the story, carved into memory and stone, echoed through human history and alien lore alike. The shot that ended a war, taken with calm precision, had proved the universe that human skill was something no force, no matter how great, could ignore. Every detail of that battle, every sacrifice, and every precise maneuver contributed to a narrative that would be remembered for generations. A species that refused to kneel, a people who fought with intelligence and heart, and a single decisive act that altered the destiny of countless worlds, leaving a legacy of resilience, courage, and enduring skill that would inspire the galaxy forever. Humanity had faced annihilation, had stared into the maw of the ultimate weapon, and had emerged victorious not by chance, but by the combination of bravery, calculated risk, and the perfect execution of skill that defined them as a species. The echoes of that final battle lingered across the stars, in every tale told, in every survivor's memory, and in the knowledge that humans, though small and fragile compared to the Karn, had proven that when it mattered most, they could strike with unmatched precision and unwavering courage. The galaxy had witnessed humanity at its finest, and no one would forget the lesson that had been taught with fire, steel, and a single perfect shot.